Yeah, thanks for the introduction, Marcel. So about the agenda, today I would like to show you some of the new SRP features, starting with the work breakdown structure and the activity codes. This feature was actually introduced already in 19.2, but we did not get to present it yet in one of these webinars. So I would like to start with that one and then continue with the advanced project budget enhancements and project profitability enhancements. Since all these features are very much intertwined, I would like to start the demonstration in NetSuite. And when the demonstration is finished, I will come back to the slides and recap on what you just saw. So let me start with the work breakdown structure. This is a new way of doing budgets in NetSuite. Before I start, I would like to talk briefly about enablement. Set up company enable features. These are the prerequisites that you have to have enabled before you can use this feature. So project management, you also have to have job costing enabled, activity codes, and advanced project budgets. Activity codes also have one prerequisite, which is custom segments. So you should have that one enabled as well. Custom segments. Let me now go to a project in NetSuite. If you have those features enabled, you will see a new sub-tab called Work Breakdown Structure. When you have no breakdown structure created yet, you will see this button there, New Work Breakdown Structure. If I click on there, it will bring me to this screen where I can define my breakdown structure. Breakdown structure is not a budget yet, but it will serve as basis for the budget. So you can define it, you can give it a hierarchical structure, you can define the way how to pull in the actuals into the breakdown structure, and then you can use it to create a budget and place it on your project record. So let me start from the top. You can see that this breakdown structure is related to the project ERP integration. You can give it a description. I'm just going to call it the same as my project. In the charts, you can specify your target margin. This is actually part of the new enhancements in 20.1. So let's say in this project, I want to achieve a margin of 20%. Throughout the project, as you pull in the actuals, this margin will be updated as the budget gets updated, as you have new actuals in the system. And you can also see the cost chart, which is at the moment blank because I did not specify any estimated or actual costs yet. So let me scroll down to the lines, and this is where you define your budget lines. So you can do this. This is pretty much up to you how you define the budget lines. I will open my project in the new tab, and I will use my project schedule to help me define my budget lines because I want to create a budget using the same structure as I use in my project schedule. So let's say I have 3 milestones there, which is plan, configure, train. I'm not going to create it all, just a couple of them to show you how this is done. So I type plan. This will be sort of a parent, so I'll leave it like that. Under plan, I will put in review SOW. Now with these arrows, you can define that hierarchical structure. So you see that this will now belong to plan. And let me pull in one more, which is discuss integration points. Add row. And let's create one more, let's say train, and one child, which will be defined training plan. Train, and defined training plan will be a child. So this is the structure of my budget. And now I can decide how do I want to pull in actuals into this budget. So this can be either the project tasks. I already have this task created in my project, so I will just link it to the project task. Same here, I can link it with the project task. But you can also decide to use activity codes. Activity codes work similarly as custom segments. You can find them under setup. I already have some demo activity codes created here, but if you want to create a new one, it's just new activity code. And you can use these also across projects. So these do not have to be created per project. So let's call this one test. I'm going to use an activity code I created previously, which is called delivery. So let's go back to my work breakdown structure, and I want to link this part of the budget with activity code called delivery. So let me select that. So now I defined my structure. I defined how do I want to pull in actuals into the budget. One thing I haven't mentioned yet is that you can decide whether you want to have this work breakdown structure global or a monthly overview. If you select monthly overview, this will be broken into months. So if this project is running from September 2020 until December 2020, the budget will be also divided into those months, and then only actuals belonging to those months would be pulled into the project. I decided for global because it's nicer to demo in this case. So if I want to select my estimated cost, I can do this in a variety of ways. So you can either just enter the cost like this, so let's say 200, or you can use this pop-up, and here you can select the source. So you can calculate the cost based on items or project resources. So let's say I want to calculate my cost based on project resources. I select a resource, Abby. She has a labor cost already assigned on her employee record, which is pulled in here, and I can decide. Let's say Abby will work 5 hours on this project, so my cost is already calculated. If I submit, that cost is pulled into that field. Okay. We can also define some budget for revenue. So let's say define training plan. I'm expecting 500 in revenue for this. Oops, I entered it onto the wrong line. Okay. So now you see that we're in loss because the margin is minus 15%. Let me just change this one to 50. And this brings us to 15% margin. My estimated cost is now also showing in the chart. So if I have the budget created, I can save the work breakdown structure. As I said, the work breakdown structure is not the budget yet. You have to press Set as Baseline Budget button on the work breakdown structure to set this as your budget. Every time you need to make changes to your budget, you have to make changes to the work breakdown structure and then set that new version of the work breakdown structure as the budget. And if you go to this list here, you will see that NetSuite is keeping track of all the versions of your previous budgets. So let me go back to the project. And under the budget subtab, you will see the budget we just defined. Okay, so now let's go back to this work breakdown structure and pull in some actuals for cost and some actuals for revenue. So I will start with cost, and I will create an expense report for this. Expense report. One of my resources on this project is called Mark. So I will select Mark as the employee. And on the lines, let's say, this is my project, ERP implementation. I will leave on purpose the project task empty now to show you what will happen if you leave that empty. And let's say 100 pounds. Let's save this expense report. If I go back to the work breakdown structure, there is a button called Recalculate Financial Data. If you want to pull in the actuals into the budget, this is how you refresh your budget. You click this button. This is also available on the project under the actions drop-down, recalculate financial data. So let's recalculate it like this. And now we should see the cost appear in our work breakdown structure. But as you can see, it's unmatched. And that is because on the expense report, I did not define a project task or an activity code. So the nice feature here is that you can click this button, show unmatched actuals for cost, and it will show you where that cost is coming from. And you can clearly see that I did not define a project task or activity code, so it cannot be matched in my hierarchy. So let me open that expense report again. I will edit it and I will insert this task here, review SOW on the line. Save. Once again, I have to go back to the structure and recalculate financial data. Now it disappeared from unmatched. There is this radio button, show actuals, and it appeared as an actual here. You can see now that the estimated cost is negative because I spent more than I estimated here, but NetSuite offers to fix these negative values easily with a button, but I'll show you this once we match some revenue. So let's now look at this define training plan. Here I estimated 500 in revenue. So let's create an invoice for that to pull in actual revenue. So I'm gonna create a new invoice. Create invoices. Actually, it's going to be easier if I create an invoice from the project records. So let's do that. So select an item. Location, because it's mandatory. And let's select an activity code. So we selected delivery in our budget. Let's add that. Save. And since I have a new actual, I have to refresh my work breakdown structure again. So let's wait until this invoice is saved. Go back to the work breakdown structure, recalculate financial data. And here it is, 3,600 in revenue under my actuals against the 500 that we estimated. Let me open this work breakdown structure again from the project record. So work breakdown structure, view work breakdown structure. And this is the notification that tells you that our estimate is now less than 0, and you can let NetSuite fix this estimate if you click on this link. Let's scroll down to the lines again. So NetSuite adjusted the estimated revenue up to 3,600 so that our estimate to complete is not negative as it was before. You can also do this manually, or you can leave it negative as it was before. It's up to you. Some other new features that came with 20.1 are regarding the profitability. So if I go to setup, accounting, project profitability, I will edit this setting or this configuration, go to settings. Here you can decide what transactions are pulled into your budget report as actuals. So before it wasn't possible to show, for example, tracked time or approved time as actual cost. You had to post that time first before it was pulled into your budget. Now you can decide to treat track time as actual cost. Same with charges. Before, it wasn't possible to show charges as actual revenue, for example. You had to actually invoice the charges before they are put into your budget. Now you can decide to show charges as actual revenue. So let's go back to the work breakdown structure. Here you can see that we have some actual cost already pulling into the chart. Our margin is way above what we estimated. It's currently at 88%. And as I mentioned before, the budgets are versioning. So if you want to make a change on the work breakdown structure, or let's say you want to make a change on your budget, you want to add a new category, for example, in your hierarchy, you have to do this through the work breakdown structure. So you go into the work breakdown structure, you edit the work breakdown structure. First, you have to add a new line or make whatever changes you want. Let me actually put this under here. Then you save it. And then you have to set it as baseline budget. So now I'm in my budget. If I go to the list, this is the budget I just created, and this was the previous version of the budget. Okay, so that was pretty much it about the work breakdown structure and the activity codes. There are also some enhancements regarding the profitability reports. This you can find as before, reports, project profitability reports. They added a couple of reports, for example, budget versus actual by activity code or by budget lines. So if you open this one, for example, you will see your budget. Let me collapse this first. I will first have to recalculate because I just created this budget. So you will see this budget and other budgets you created for various projects in one overview. And since we also use activity codes, you can, for example, decide to remove the project from the columns, from the results. Then you can run some reporting on activity codes because activity codes can be shared across multiple projects. So let me just wait until this report refreshes so that I can show you our ERP implementation project. Okay, it's taking a while. This is basically our budget, but the actuals are not pulling in yet because the report was not refreshed. Now if I open it again, we should see our actuals. So it's the ERP integration. Budgeted cost. Actual revenue. Okay, so let me go back to my slides to recap on what we just saw, starting with the work breakdown structure. So this enables you to easily define and categorize your projects. Some of the features are that you can see actual and budgeted amounts in a single overview. You can define your own custom hierarchical structure. You can choose between global or monthly timeline. So if you choose global, as I chosen before, you will see all the costs and all the revenue generating transactions relating to a project in that budget. But if you use the monthly timeline, then let's say you define January until March, then only transactions within that timeline would be pulled into your report. So not everything that is relating to the project. It serves as base for the budget. So the work breakdown structure is not the budget yet. You have to set it as the budget. And you can pull in actuals using the project tasks or activity codes. Project tasks, by the way, do have the priority. So first, NetSuite looks if there is a project task associated with the budget line. If there is none, then it will look for activity codes. Activity codes, these provide additional dimension for reporting. So you can pull in actuals into your budget report. You can categorize activities into logical groups. enable classifications of project-related transactions and time entries. Yes, so you can match actuals to the budget lines of your work breakdown structure, and they also allow cross-customers or project reporting because they can be shared across multiple projects. And now about the enhancements in 20.1, which you've already seen in the demonstration. So you can generate budget versus actual reports across multiple projects. You can estimate costs based on items or project resources. So if you can either insert the cost into your budget manually, or you can use an item or resource to calculate this for you. You can display unmatched actual cost or revenue. So with the expense report I created, first I didn't enter any project task or activity code. Then it showed as unmatched cost in my budget. So I could easily allocate this expense report and fix it. You can generate a budget cost burn chart and also display a progress bar for the forecasted margin in relation to the current budget. So these were the two charts that you saw on the work breakdown structure record, and you can also edit a new version of the budget. So the budgets are versioning, and you can have multiple versions of budgets at the same time for the same project. About the advanced project profitability enhancements, now you can recalculate financial data directly from the project record or from the work breakdown structure. Before you had to go into the profitability reports and press the recalculate financial data button there, but now you can do this directly from the project record. You can display approved time as actual. So this we saw in the settings of the profitability. And you can also include forecasted or actual charges in your budget. So with that being said, that concludes my presentation, and I pass it back to Marcel.